It's no surprise people process experiences and learning differently. Humans have set up a system to measure the milestones of developmental growth of an average individual, but what about those who veer from that path? These people are classified under the non-medical umbrella term of neurodivergent. Neurodivergent people can have autism spectrum disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, dyslexia, dyspraxia, intellectual disabilities, mental health conditions like bipolar disorder and obsessive-compulsive disorder, sensory processing disorders, or social anxiety and other anxiety disorders. There's no medical criteria for what it means to be neurodivergent. However, people who identify as neurodivergent typically have more than one of these conditions. Masking is when a person hides their neurodivergent traits because they feel like they must blend in with the others. People can unknowingly mask, then find out years later, even into their adulthood, that they have been doing it even though that's not their true self. This is especially true for females that are neurodivergent. According to the scientific paper written for the National Library of Medicine, females showed a significantly greater delay in referral to mental health services and a significantly higher age at diagnosis of ASD. People start to realize that they are different when social demands exceed the individual coping ability. I began to realize my divergent attributes at the end of my senior year of high school. When I talked to people, I was mostly shut down because I thought I was just being weird, but I was always comfortable talking to my friends because we understood each other's troubles. And as we became adults, a lot of my friends had started getting diagnoses. People who are good at masking usually have to script out conversations and rehearse them by themselves, mirror the people around them, and overplan all the situations they will have to be in. When I script, I would study my facial expressions to match the emotions I'm trying to portray because they don't come out as easily to neurodivergence. I would also go over conversations I would have in front of a mirror to know exactly what I was going to say because I know my thoughts will scatter in the moment and I won't get to say everything that I need. I can be very articulate when I plan out what I'm going to say, but when I am caught off guard and I haven't come up with a response to a scenario, I can struggle to get a complete sentence out. This is a problem found in people who have apraxia. People with apraxia make inconsistent errors in speech. For example, someone with apraxia may say a difficult word correctly, but then have trouble repeating it, or may be able to say a particular sound one day and have trouble with the same sound the next day. Masking is tied to anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. Anxiety of losing your mask causes you to overplan on everything you do, which could be mentally exhausting, which equals burnout. As stated by the National Autistic Society, neurodivergent burnout is a state of physical and mental fatigue, heightened stress, and diminished capacity to manage life skills, sensory input, and/or social interactions, which come from years of being severely overtaxed by the strain of trying to live up to demands that are out of sync with your needs. According to the National Library of Medicine paper, several studies highlighted the more complex presentations of ASD in women and the greater likelihood of females hiding their autistic symptoms, leading to a camouflage among a neurotypical population and hindering the diagnostic process. People who build up enough courage to express their problems are often met with closed ears. Most women in the research paper are misdiagnosed with personality disorder, anxiety and mood disorders, and psychotic spectrum disorder, but were later diagnosed with ASD. Another reason why women are diagnosed later in life is because some studies reported greater social and communicative deficiencies and greater repetitive behaviors among ASD males compared to females. But other studies also pointed out that even when the level of impairment was similar, women tended to show interests, behaviors, and communicative features that were more socially more acceptable and in line with gender stereotypes, increasing females' chances of mimetizing typically developing subjects, and conversely decreasing the probability of them being diagnosed and treated in a timely way. I went through 19 years of my life with problems that could have been resolved if people just listened and disability access was more equitable for females. I could always handle social demands such as hanging out with friends, doing interviews, attending class, or responding to messages until I just couldn't. Depression and anxiety can manifest itself from masking and burnout. The fear of losing your mask can make you suicidal. Upon getting a diagnosis, how will your friends and teachers take it? Will they see me as incompetent? How will my family take it? Will they accept it as valid? These questions keep us terrified. A study at the University of Cambridge showed that undiagnosed autistic people could be at risk of dying by suicide. Autistic people could, on average, die 20 years earlier than non-autistic people, and two big causes of this are suicide and epilepsy. Previous research by the same group has shown that up to 66% of autistic adults have thought about taking their own life, and 35% have attempted suicide. On top of this, researchers found that the women who screened positive for autism had nearly 3 times the odds of having experienced sexual abuse as those who did not screen positive. Those who screened positive for ADHD doubled their odds of sexual abuse. Neurodivergent people sometimes cannot speak or their speech is not well developed. Neurodivergent, mostly women, are generally taught from childhood up to be compliant, to obey, and to go along with people. Because of the intellectual disability, people tend not to believe them, to think that they're not credible of what they are saying, or they're making up or imagining. And for all these reasons, a perpetrator sees a safe opportunity to victimize people. Labeling can have pros and cons. A reason why you would want to get an official diagnosis is so you can get accommodations. Another reason is so you can prove to others that you actually are struggling with something and it's not just laziness or forgetfulness. It's not like they weren't trying hard enough or they were stupid. They were probably working harder than anyone in the class, but the system they are working in was not accommodating to their situation, whether it be noising, testing environments, or the text on the paper wasn't contrasting enough, and they didn't have enough time to decipher it. Language gives you validation and makes the world more accessible, but using slurs such as retarded is dehumanizing and mocking. When someone uses the word retarded, they are saying that a person with an intellectual disability is dumb or stupid, which really isn't the case. Because the word has become a casual description of anything negative or flawed, retarded is no longer considered an appropriate way to describe people with intellectual disabilities. And any use of the word, even when used as slang and not intended to be offensive, is hurtful, because it will always be associated with people who have disabilities. For some people with autism, differences may not cause any suffering to the person themselves. Instead, the suffering may result from the barriers imposed by societal norms, causing a social exclusion and inequity. A lot of neurodivergent people have a hard time identifying emotions. This correlates to mirroring. It's easier to mirror people because they know that the emotions they are displaying in that moment are the correct emotions that they would like to see back. The inability to identify emotions can seem like neurodivergent people lack empathy. This isn't true. Neurodivergent people can express empathy in different ways. It's best to have clear communication on what you expect of the neurodivergent person. Instead of getting angry that a person isn't giving you their full attention through eye contact and supportive words like, "I agree," you should say, "I would really appreciate it if you could tell me what you thought went wrong after I'm done talking." This way, it's clear that they are expected to start talking and what they should be listening for. On the other hand, Neurodivergents can have too much empathy and carry other people's emotions around with them for long periods of time. This can be debilitating and extremely stressful, which would result in a faster burnout. Eye contact is especially hard for neurodivergent people and can be misunderstood by neurotypicals. Most neurodivergent people can't handle eye contact, but some people like me see it as a necessity to understand what the person is saying. It's not just eye contact, it's seeing their facial expressions and their body movements to fully interpret what is coming out of their mouth. It can be intimidating or creepy for people when I make more than the required amount to show that I am listening. I've learned to nod and smile to show that I am listening and make it less creepy than just an intense stare. Scripting helps so you know how to correctly fluctuate your voice when you are saying something. When I was in the special speech and language class in elementary school, I had to really work on the movement of my voice because people would never know when I ended a sentence and started a new one. Figurative language and sarcasm really gets confusing for neurodivergent people because it's hard to tell if you're joking or not. I have an especially hard time with sarcasm coming from other people even though I know how to be sarcastic myself. It's understanding others' intentions that makes it hard. The hardest thing I have to deal with as a neurodivergent person is inconsistent executive function. This messes with my ability to plan, organize, prioritize, make decisions, and I experience heavy memory loss. I am greatly impacted by memory loss, and when people don't understand that my sense of time is skewed by inconsistent executive function, they think I don't care.
My sandpaper side engraves a line into the rust of your tongue. Girl, I could have been someone to you.